This video will have some sped up sections when I feel like the cutting is straightforward. Cutting everything out for this video took me about an hour and a half. Got your scissors in all 10 pages? Let's get started. The first element we'll cut out will be the lid. First, cut around the perimeter of the lid, staying on the black line as much as you can. Just a reminder that while your artwork may vary, the pieces are the same, and the instructions apply to all the sets equally. In order to make the sharp turns, you can take two approaches. One is to overcut in one direction just a little bit. This will allow you to turn the scissors 90 degrees. The other approach is to cut from one direction and then cut the other way to make the 90-degree angle. Use whichever approach works best for you. Once you've completed cutting out the perimeter, cut on the two white dotted lines in the pattern here and here. You will only cut it to the first fold line. Now you can put this piece to the side and move on to the next sheet. The next element we'll cut out will be the outside front of the box. Just follow the black line of the perimeter around the outside of the pattern to cut this one out. Try to get those 90-degree corners as precise as possible. Nice job! On to the next element. Next up is the outside back of the box. This is a big rectangle, so follow the black line around the perimeter to remove all the excess cardstock. Once the pattern is cut out, you will cut on the two white dotted lines to the first fold line. Excellent! Next element. The next element is the inside front of the box. This shape should be familiar to you since we already did the counterpart. Follow the black line of the perimeter, focusing on getting the 90-degree corners as precise as possible. Now we're moving. Next. Now we're going to finish up the box elements with the inside back of the box. Again, this shape should look familiar. Follow the black line around the perimeter of the big rectangle to cut it out. Once the pattern is cut out, you will cut on the 2 white dotted lines to the first fold line. With the box all cut out, let's move on to the furniture and props. Ready? This page contains your character, the video game system, and all the elements of the houseplant. To make this a little more manageable, go ahead and cut out each item roughly to get rid of the excess cardstock. Once that is done, let's start with the bottom of the houseplant. This is just a simple hexagon, so you should make quick work of it. Once you've cut it out, put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it. Next, we're going to do the 2 pieces of the video game console. These are rectangles with rounded corners, so try to keep those scissors open as you turn the paper through the corners. Next comes the character front. Let's switch over to look at your specific character. The panda is a little trickier than it looks. The ears in particular need a steady hand and smooth turns. The dirt insert of the houseplant has some straight lines to make the triangles, but a little maneuvering to get around the smaller points on the inside. Don't worry about the black rectangle right now. We'll deal with that when we assemble it. Next up is the pot. Start around the outside and then move into cutting out all the points. Take your time with this one. Let's finish off the character back. Same tips apply to this piece. Take your time around the ears. We've saved the plant for last for a reason. The sharp points are a little tough to get clean. Go up the side and go a little beyond the first point and turn back down toward the other side of the leaf. Cut down to the point where it meets the next leaf, and then reposition to cut down the joining side of the next leaf to meet your original cut. We'll be using this method, which I'll refer to as the convergence cut, a lot in this set. Repeat with the remaining leaves. It doesn't need to be perfect. Try to get it as close as you can. We'll clean it up when it's time to assemble everything. Another page in the books. Let's move on to the next page. This page features the handle and the rest of the props, the pillows, the magazine, the watering can, and the laptop. Take the same approach as the last page and separate each element from the excess cardstock. The pillows are just rectangles with an extra tab, and the magazines are just rectangles. No sweat. The laptop are rectangles, but the corners are also rounded, similar to the video game console. Each part of the laptop has two thin white areas on either side of the hinge that will also need to be cut out. Cut either side of the thin white space and pull that cut section away from the laptop. Next up is the handle. Just follow the outline around the outer edge of the handle and then do the same for the inner edge. The watering can is last. The corners are rounded, but you have plenty of practice at that at this point. The difficulty of this one comes with the spout. Making the turn from the main body to the spout requires a tiny bit of overcut so you can turn your scissors to the right angle to proceed up the spout. Take your time around the spout as it's delicate. 3 pages left to go. You got this. The next page has the majority of the pieces you'll need to make the sofa. The main body and both arms. These pieces have the most amount of cuts we'll make into the template, but we'll get to that. Separate the pieces to make them easier to work with. We're going to start with an arm. Cut around the outer edge of the pattern. Using the convergence cut method to deal with the two 90-degree angles works pretty well. Along each of the 4 white lines of this arm, you're going to cut to the first fold line. The next arm piece is more of what you've just done. Once you've cut around the edge, cut those 4 white lines to the first fold line. The main body of the sofa is the largest piece you'll cut out. I'm going to trim off some excess as I cut along this edge. When you make this 90-degree turn, go ahead and overcut a bit since it will be cutting into one of the many white lines on this piece. Run it all the way to the end and then along the back edge. Follow the same line you did on the other side, but in reverse, leaving a small white square and white rectangle for now. We're going to do the convergence method to make this 90-degree turn on this side. Finish off the bottom by following the edge. Now we're going to clean up those extra white pieces. In order to get the squares out, you'll need to either overcut one of the sides just enough to turn your scissors, You could also start with the rectangles using a convergence cut method for the 90-degree turn. Then cut either side of the white square and fold the green square out of the way to cut the last side of the white square. Either method will work. There are 8 white lines on this piece. We're going to cut the 4 straight lines first and leave the other 4 that are shaped like L's. Cut them to the first fold line. For the white L's, you're going to cut toward the middle along the white lines first, then do a 90-degree turn to cut on the intersecting white line. Both cuts should stop at the first black fold line. Sofa done. 2 pages left. The next page up contains the bookshelf and book prop. The bookshelf is pretty straightforward. Simply cut around the outside edge. There are quite a few tight angles in this one where the tabs meet the base. The convergence cut method is your friend for this piece and will give you the cleanest finish. As always, removing excess cardstock will make the finer cutting easier. The book cover is a simple rectangle. The book interior is a rectangle with a few 90-degree turns for the front flap. Nothing you can't handle at this point. There are 4 cut lines on the book interior that will need to be cut to the first black fold line. Okay, back to the bookshelf. I like to leave the smaller triangles and deal with the longer straight lines first, and then go back and remove the little triangles using the convergence cut method. If you still have a little white edge, you can go ahead and clean it up now, or wait, and we can clean it up during assembly. Bookshelf done. Home stretch now, last page. This sheet contains the bottom of the sofa and the coffee table. Let's tackle the bottom of the sofa first by just following the outer edge. As always, let's separate the pieces and remove the excess cardstock. Let's start with one of the legs. This shape should look familiar as it's similar to the structure of the bookshelf. Follow a similar approach, cutting as much of the straight lines as possible and using the convergence cut method to deal with the sharper angles. One leg down, same approach for the other side. The tabletop should also look similar, as it's basically a larger version of the book interior we did on the last page. Cut around the edge. Use the converge cut method to deal with the 90-degree turns. There are 4 white cut lines on the tabletop. Cut each one of them to the first black fold line. You've done it! You've got everything cut out. Now comes the fun of putting everything together. Ready? Let's do it!